Hey, welcome back to How to Barbecue Right. I'm Malcolm Reed. Y'all, I got a couple beautiful ribeyes in front of me today. I'm gonna show you a few of the tips that I use to cook them where they'll turn out perfect every single time. Now, I'm gonna season them up the way I like to eat them. You don't have to use the same stuff. Use what you like, but I guarantee you these are gonna taste delicious. Let's get to cooking. So when I'm picking out ribeyes at the meat counter or in the grocery store, it doesn't matter. A couple things I'm looking for. One, I want them to be about that 16-ounce size. That's 1 pound. I like them to be about 1.25 inches to 1.5 inches thick. That's exactly what these are. But you can tell these two steaks are a little different. Now, what I'm looking for is this front area, this spinalis area of the ribeye. Now, you can tell this steak right here come off closer to the shoulder end of the rib loin. That spinalis is way bigger. There's a lot of it, super tender meat. And you've got 3 distinct muscles in this steak. You've got that front spinalis, you've got a little eye here, and then we've got that center portion of that loin. Now, as the ribeye goes back down the rib loin, that spinalis starts telling out. So you'll get 2 or 3 steaks that look about like this, and then you'll start getting that spinalis that thins out. The little medallion muscle kind of goes away. It ends up with a kernel of fat right in the middle. There's nothing wrong with that. And the eye starts getting a little bit bigger. And all it is the ribs getting narrow as it goes down the rib loin. Still a great eating steak. There's a lot of good spinalis here, but if I'm looking for one, this is the ribeye that I want to eat right here with a bunch of good spinalis meat. We don't have as much fat in the center, and there's a lot of good loin left back here too. Sometimes you have to trim them up. You'll notice the tail on this ribeye didn't get completely trimmed off. You can cook it on there if you want to, but the steak's going to kind of fall apart a little bit. It's okay, still good to eat. It's probably gonna get a little overcooked because we gotta cook the thick part of that steak first. But what I do, if I just wanna make them look really pretty, I'll just take a knife and I'll come in and I'll do a little light trim on them. The steak's got a little bit of hanging on it right here where it was just cut a little funny. It's perfectly okay, but I'm just gonna take my knife and just kind of round it out a little bit. And now it just looks more uniform. It's gonna cook more even. I'm not gonna get too aggressive with these because I'm just at the house here eating steak. This other ribeye, I'm not gonna do anything to it. I don't mind if it's got a little fat. So I've got them trimmed up, but another thing you wanna look for is this internal marbling. It doesn't matter about these bigger pockets of fat. That's not marbling. Those are just kernels that are running through those muscles separating. The marbling is this feathered fat that you can see that runs through that loin, that runs through that spinalis. That's what makes a ribeye expensive. When it's got a lot of good marbling like that, it's probably gonna be a pretty good steak. It grades higher. Now, these are just choice grade ribeye steaks. They're not prime, they're not Wagyu, anything like that, but they're still mighty good eating. Now, I know y'all have heard me talk about using a binder before. I'm using Worcestershire sauce. Now, it's not picking up a whole lot of flavor from the Worcestershire because it's not gonna be on there that long and I'm not using a lot of it. But what that Worcestershire is gonna do, it's gonna moisten up the surface of this steak. It's gonna give something for my rub to kind of melt into, but the darkness of that Worcestershire is gonna give that steak a really good appearance, and that's really what I'm using it for. It's melting my seasoning, helping it stick a little bit, and it's giving me some nice color. I'm gonna flip it over, I'm gonna do the backside too. Now, the first seasoning that I'm gonna hit these steaks with is this Swine Life Prime Beef. It's just excellent on beef, man. It's got a good savory flavor to it. Of course, it has salt and pepper in it. It's got a little bit of heat, so you don't wanna get too crazy with it, but it brings out all the flavors of the beef itself. And I'm giving it a pretty good dose. I would say that's, medium heavy shake on it. Then I want to take my hand and just kind of gently pat it in. I'm gonna flip them over and we're gonna do the same thing. Now, if you don't have the prime beef, hey, use any kind of AP seasoning you like. If you got a favorite beef rub, of course you could use it here. The flavor part is completely up to you. Now, I do want to get the edges. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll just sprinkle me a little bit on the board and I'll just kind of pat the steak in it instead of trying to shake the edge. You can see it's not too heavy on the sides. That's okay. Now, I like to let these steaks sit here and rest at room temperature for about 30, 45 minutes. It's not really coming all the way up to room temp like you see people talk about. They're still gonna be pretty cold when I put them on the grill, but it is giving me some time for those seasonings to meld into the meat. That's gonna make it taste better. So we're gonna let these hang out a little bit, then we're gonna go start the fire. So it's been about 25 minutes. I'm gonna go ahead and get my fire going, y'all. Those steaks are sitting over there getting happy on the board. I'm gonna get some briquettes fired up. I've got some of these Royal Oak supersize, just a Weber charcoal chimney. I'm gonna make me a little 2-zone fire today. And all that means is I'm gonna keep my hot coals on one side. It's perfect for cooking 2 steaks. And it gives me a little safety net on the opposite side. So in case anything gets away from me, I can move it over out of the direct heat. I've got a couple of these little tumbleweeds to get the fire going, torch them up. It'll take but a split second. Set those coals right over those tumbleweeds. It'll take about 15 to 17 minutes to get those coals good and hot. Then we're gonna dump them out, get a grate set up. So it's been exactly 17 minutes, and y'all check them coals out, they're ready. What I'm gonna do is just keep them all on half the grill. That's that 2-zone fire I was talking about. Gives you a really good hot fire on one side. You're still gonna get heat on the cool side, it's just not gonna be direct heat. Now I've got my grill grate over the hot coals sitting on top of the cooking grate. This one's brand new, so I need to get a little bit of oil on it. I've just got some cooking spray. I'm just gonna spray it down a little bit. We're gonna let that kind of burn off. Watch that spray, it will light up as you can see. What I like to do here is get the lid on the grill. Let's start bringing the whole thing up. Open them vents 100%. The bottom's wide open, top's wide open. It's gonna come up to about 575, 600. That's what I want that grate temp to be when I start searing these steaks. Now, while the grill itself's coming up, I like to layer on some more flavoring on our steaks. Now, we've had that prime beef sitting on them for about 40 total minutes. Look, you can tell it's pulling moisture out of that steak, but all that seasoning's kind of melded into the inside, and they look really good. But I want to put another layer of flavor on them, so I'm going with a coarse kind of ground rub. It's got some thicker salt in it, some coarser pepper. It's gonna have some herbs in it. That's my steak rub. If you've got a really favorite coarse rub that you like to give it some crunch, go ahead and add it now. Pat that in gently, not trying to rub it in, just trying to mash those pieces of that garlic and the salt and the pepper, the onion, mash all that into that steak. All right, our steaks are sitting there seasoned up, but before I throw them on the grill, I'm gonna mix me up a little bit of steak butter. I've got half a stick of salted Kerrygold butter. Since we use that steak rub on the outside of our steaks for texture, I'm gonna add some of that to the butter. And I'm just mashing that steak rub into the butter, just incorporating it. And once I got it all incorporated, I'm gonna take this Worcestershire and just put a few dashes there. So we got the steak rub, got a little hint of Worcestershire, and the steak butter is that easy to make. There's nothing to it, really. And I don't eat steaks every day, but when I do eat one, I want them to be phenomenal. And this butter takes them to another level. All right, once that grill grate got good and hot, I'm talking 550 degrees, we're ready to sear these steaks. And I'm gonna start them on the grill grate. I've got my safe zone if I need it, but let's just put a steak right here, give it a nice little press down, and we're gonna start the other one right beside it. Now, you don't have to use these grill grates. If you wanted to cook them directly on the Weber grate or any grill grate you have, go for it. I just like the grill mark. Now I wanna give these steaks about 2 minutes before I do anything to them. So just let them sit there and cook. You can put the lid right back on. Let it rock and roll. So it's been 2 minutes. This is where, when you're using these grill grates, you wanna rotate it. I'm just gonna take these steaks, move them over to this side, and turn them a little bit. Press it down, let them go another 2 minutes. So we've been rolling about 4 minutes total. It's time to flip these steaks over. Come on, baby, look good. Oh, yeah. And we're just gonna do the same thing, another 2 minutes, and then we'll turn them. We gotta get the lid back on to hold that heat in. All right, y'all, it's been another 2 minutes. Time to move the steaks. Take them, we're gonna give them that twist again. Still make sure it's sizzling. Now these steaks have been on 8 total minutes, and they looking good, they smelling good. We gotta see where they at internal wise. Man, we about there. I tell you, they need about 1 more minute, but I don't need them to be direct heat. So with this little grill grate, look at that. I'm gonna slide them right off that hot coals. I'm gonna give them another little turn, get them even further over away from that heat. We're just gonna let them hang out till I get to the temperature I want. Now, this part is totally up to you. Where do you like your ribeye steak? I like mine around 125 to 130, let them sit, let them carry over. That's gonna put me on that medium rare to medium line. If you want them less done, go ahead and take them off now. If you want them more done, take them up to the temperature you want. But I use a thermopin to see my internal temperature. I'm looking for like about 130. Right now we're sitting about 125. I ain't even gonna put the lid on. I'm just gonna let them sit here a minute. I'm gonna get my butter ready on the plate. We're gonna take this butter, I'm gonna scoop out about half of it. We're just gonna put it on one side of the plate. Scoop out the other half, put it on the other side. That ain't nothing to it, is it? So we get ready to take them up. All we're gonna do is set them right on top of that butter, just like that. Let that heat melt it. That'll put you in a little meat trance right there. I can't wait to get into these dudes. But they need about 7 to 10 minutes of just sitting here, calming down. Y'all look at all that butter melted, I mean, that's the best steak sauce. It's got all the steak juices mixed with it that leaches out a little bit. All that seasoned melted butter. Look at that, I'm gonna get it out of that butter. Let that drip all over it. I don't wanna lose that. We're gonna put it right here on the cutting board for you. I'm gonna cut it. Let's see how we get it cook-wise. Look at this. Look at this. If that don't make a fat boy happy, I don't know what does. Get you a bite, whatever you like. Get back over here in that butter. But I got all this butter with that seasoning on that bite. Now, it ain't good for you, but it tastes good, I promise. Holy smokes. That ain't even the spinalis. I don't even want to try that. I'd pass out. Just for y'all, I'm gonna try the spinalis. This is like the best bite of ribeye steak you can get. Run it through a little bit of that sauce we made, the butter and the steak juice. Just melts. Hey, we appreciate y'all hanging out with us today. If you like what we're doing here at How to Barbecue Right, y'all subscribe to the channel. You can find us on all the social platforms, and Shell and I will be talking about this recipe, whole bunch of other delicious stuff on our weekly podcast, How to Barbecue Right, the podcast. Y'all give that a listen. We'll see y'all next time. I don't know if I could eat both of them, but I bet you I could give it a darn good try.